Hi everyone, and thanks for joining today. My name's Claire and I'm your host for the session where we will be looking at bank feeds in Sage Business Cloud Accounting. So if you've ever spent hours manually typing bank transactions into your accounts or worried about making mistakes while doing it, you're not alone. So today I'm going to show you a much easier way to handle that using bank feeds. Before we get started, I just want to run through a few housekeeping points. You may have noticed that you were automatically muted when you joined. Your microphones will remain muted throughout the session just to minimise any background noise, but you do still have the option to ask any questions. There is a questions panel on the right-hand side of your screen, so by clicking the little question mark icon, you can submit your questions and I'll cover them all at the end. So we'll get straight into what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to start with an overview of bank feeds and how to connect your bank using Sage Accounting. Then we look at how to process the transactions once they've been imported, including when to use the match, create and transfer options. After that, we'll explore bank rules and how they can help automate recurring transactions to save even more time. I'm also going to cover bank statement import, which is useful if your bank doesn't support a live feed, or if you prefer not to use the live connection, you've still got the option of importing a bank statement. And finally, I'll look at bank reconciliation and how bank feeds and the statement import can make that process much quicker and easier. And at the end of the session, I'll also show you the additional support and training resources that you have available. So by the end of this webinar, you should feel confident to get started with bank feeds yourself. So I'll just start with the basics with what bank feeds actually are. So bank feeds create a secure connection between your bank and Sage Accounting. And once that connection's made, your bank transactions are automatically imported into Sage, so there's no need to manually enter them yourself. Instead of typing transactions in one by one, you're simply reviewing and confirming the information that's already there. This helps reduce manual data entry, saves time and keeps your accounts up to date. It can also make the bank reconciliation process much quicker, which we'll be looking at a bit later on in the session. So once your bank feed is connected, Sage can automatically import transactions directly from your bank. And from there, you can match transactions against existing entries in Sage, create new transactions where needed, and automate recurring transactions using bank rules. So this means you spend less time entering the data manually and more time reviewing and managing your accounts. So the main benefits are saving time, reducing manual errors, and keeping your financial records up to date. So for many businesses, bank feeds can reduce manual data entry significantly and making day-to-day bookkeeping much more efficient. So the first part of the demo focuses on connecting your bank account to Sage. So before you begin, make sure your bank account has already been created in the banking area within Sage. It's also important to note that bank feeds only work with base currency bank accounts. So for example, for a UK company, you can only connect UK sterling bank accounts. To set up the connection, you will need your online banking login details along with your account number and sort code, but the setup process usually takes less than 30 minutes to complete. And for security purposes, the connection must be reauthorized every 90 days. This is standard banking security requirement. And Sage uses secure encrypted connections, and your banking credentials are never stored in a visible or accessible format, so it is really secure. So we'll take a look now at how to get that connection made within Sage Account. So I'll jump into a demonstration. So Sage Business Cloud Accounting is available in 3 versions. There's a Start, Standard and Plus. Now today I've got the Plus version open for the purposes of this demonstration, but don't worry, if you are using Start or Standard, bank feeds work in exactly the same way in all 3 versions, so this session will apply to everyone. So the first thing you need to do is jump into the banking tab, and if your bank account isn't already showing in the banking section, you will need to create that bank account in order to create the link up. So if you haven't got that in there, the new button on the right hand side gives you the option of setting up a new bank account. It will ask you to select the type of account, so you've got a list of options there. So I'll just choose a credit card, give it the name of the credit card company or just a name that you will recognise, and hit save. And that will drop that account into your banking screen. So I've now got a main bank account, I've got a savings account, and I've also got that credit card that we've just created. Now, to make the connection for the live feed, under each of the bank accounts in the bottom corner is an Actions drop down, and that's where the Connect to Bank option will appear. So clicking into there, it will take you to a screen where it will ask you to select your bank. Now, most of the main banks are displayed on screen, but if yours is not one of them, you have got a search box where you can start typing in the name of your bank, and if it's compatible, it will be displayed in the list. So you would just select your bank. Now I'm just going to choose a demo bank just for this purpose of this demonstration. So select your bank. It will then ask you to confirm some terms and conditions, so just follow the screens through, and then some more information about the connection. And then the next screen for you will be your usual login screen, where it's going to ask you for your bank account details, so your login credentials, account number, sort code, just to create the link. Once you've entered that, it will then take you to a screen where it'll ask you which bank account you want to connect to. So if you do have more than one bank account, under those login details, it will list them for you to confirm the bank account you want to link to. It will then take you to a date option. So you have got the option of backdating transactions if you are not up to date. Most banks do let you go back up to 90 days to pull the transactions through from. Some even let you go back further. So if you do need to backdate, just click into the date box and see how far it's going to let you go back and select the date that you want to start from, and the transactions will start to populate from that date. So continue to that, and that's the bank connection made. Once you hit finish, that will take you back to the banking screen, and the transactions will automatically begin flowing into Sage. So if you do have multiple bank accounts and you want to link up to more than one, you would just repeat that process under the next bank account and follow the steps through. So once the transactions are downloaded, they'll appear in date order with the oldest transaction shown first. Money out transactions are displayed in red as a negative amount, while money in transactions will appear in black as a positive amount. And each transaction includes 3 processing options to either match, create, or transfer. And these options allow you to quickly process transactions directly from the bank feed without needing to enter them manually. And depending on your bank, the feed may update daily or multiple times throughout the day. So the key benefit is that your financial data stays up to date automatically without the need to manually enter or upload any bank statements. So I'm going to jump back into a demonstration just to show you how to process those transactions once they've been downloaded from the bank. So once connected, under each bank account, you'll see a number showing how many transactions are ready to process. So in this example, I've got 252 transactions that have happened in real life that are now available in Sage to process. And by selecting the link, it opens the transaction list where you can see the date, the amount, and a reference. So each transaction will show the date, the reference, and the amount for each item. So that's what you would see if you were looking at your online banking or bank statement. And as before, as I mentioned, money out shows in red with a negative sign, and money in shows in black. And to the right of each transaction, you've got those 3 options to match, create, or transfer. So we're going to run through those one by one. So we'll start with the match option. So matching is to be used to link a bank transaction to an existing transaction in Sage, such as an outstanding invoice, or if you've already entered a payment or receipt, you can match it off against what's already in Sage. And to help reduce manual work, Sage automatically searches for possible matches by comparing transaction dates and values against existing records. And when a potential match is found, it appears highlighted in green with the suggested match alongside. So if we look at this example here, I've got a green match found. It's found the sales invoice it wants to match it against. Now it won't guess if it could be a number of invoices of the same amount. It will ask you to confirm, but if it can only be one invoice, it'll find the invoice it wants to match it against. You have got a little pencil if you want to check anything. You can edit if need be. But once you're happy, all you need to do is hit the green match button on the right hand side, and that will record the receipt in this case against the invoice in Sage. That invoice is no longer outstanding. It'll update the bank activity in Sage, and it'll also remove the transaction from this processing list so you can't process it again. So really easy, just to check the transaction, happy, hit match, and that's it done. If Sage doesn't find a match automatically, you can still match the transaction manually by selecting the match option. So if we look at this top example, just say this is a customer maybe paying off more than one invoice, so Sage doesn't know which invoices to choose. So in that scenario, you would just hit match. It will then list all of the options below. Now mine's quite short, my list, but yours is likely to be quite long. So you do have a search option on the right hand side where you can filter the list a little bit by customer, by date, by amount, just so the list is not as long, for you then to select what you want to match it against. So this customer is paying off 2 invoices, so I'm going to tick those 2 invoices, which will drop them down to the match section at the bottom. You have got the option to adjust payments if need be, so if they've only part paid, or if you need to make any adjustments, you can. But again, once happy, hit the green match button. That will pay those 2 invoices off in the program, so they're now no longer outstanding. It's updated the bank activity in Sage to show that money coming in, and again it's removed itself from the list so you can't process it again. So in summary, the match option is used for transactions that already exist in Sage, such as outstanding invoices, or if you've already entered the payment or receipt, you can match it off against those. So that's the first processing option. The second one is to create. So the create option is used for transactions that don't already exist in Sage and are not linked to an invoice. So it could be a general expense, a card purchase, bank charges, a one-off online purchase. So anything that doesn't require an invoice, you can use the create button for. The create option can also be used for payment on accounts as well. So if a customer pays a deposit, or if you've paid a supplier on account, you can record those using the create option as well. So in this example, let's just say this is a fuel receipt. So I'm going to choose create. You do get the option of linking it to one of your contacts, one of your suppliers in this case. So that's optional. You don't have to do that. You can leave it blank. The second box is the ledger account. This is the important one, just so you can tag it to the relevant area in your account. So you can search for the ledger account you want this to go to. So in my case, the fuel account. It will pull through the reference automatically, but you can update that if need be. You can also change the VAT rate. And if the receipt is actually split across more than one ledger account, or it might be split across different VAT rates, or even analysis types you might want to tag it to, you have got this split option on the right hand side, which will break it down for you, so you can split it across more than one code if you need to. So if I just pop this across 2, so you can just go down and fill out the details. If you are using departments or projects, you'll get the option to tag against those, and if it is different VAT rates, you can split the lines across the different VAT rates as well. So just update the values so it matches the amount that you've received, and that will show you at the bottom it all matches. So again, hit the create button. So it's always the green button that confirms and posts it into your account. So once you're happy, hit the button, and again it'll disappear from the list, and it's now updated those areas in your accounts. So anything that's just a general expense or general receipt, you can choose the create button for. And as I mentioned, you can also use it to record a payment on account. So if I just scroll down a little bit, if this is, say, a customer making a payment on account, choose the create option. This time you will select the contact, so you know who has sent the money in. So select the contact from the list, and then under the ledger account drop down, the first option is for payment on account. So just make sure you select that. Again, update any details if you need to. Hit the create button on the right hand side, and that will record that receipt against that customer's account, and it'll just sit on their account until it's either allocated to a future invoice or if it's refunded at a later date. So the create option is to be used whenever the transaction doesn't already exist in Sage. And the third option is to transfer. So you've got a transfer option next to each transaction, and that is used when moving money between your bank accounts. So if you're repaying a credit card, repaying a loan, or transferring money between, say, a savings and a current account, that's when you would use the transfer option. But before using the transfer option, you do need to make sure that both of the bank accounts are set up in the banking section, just because when you do choose the transfer option, it will ask you to select the bank account that money's either gone to or come from. So you do need to have it set up in Sage in order for it to show in this drop down list. So select the account, again update the reference, hit transfer, and that will automatically create the transfer in both of those bank accounts. So one important point to note is if both bank accounts in Sage are connected to their individual bank feeds, you will only process the transfer on one side. On the other account, when the transfer shows up in that bank feed, you can either discard it or match it off against the corresponding transfer that's already been processed from the other account, if that makes sense. So you would only process the transfer in one of the bank accounts, then either match or discard in the other. So that covers how to process the transactions that are downloaded through the bank feed. So just to recap, money out appears in red with a negative sign, money in appears in black, and then you have the three options for processing the transactions to either match against a transaction already recorded in Sage, create new transactions if they don't yet exist, and transfer money between your bank accounts. So the next thing we're going to look at is a little bit more automation with bank feed rules. So bank feed rules help automate the processing and categorization of bank transactions. By setting specific criteria, Sage can automatically apply the correct ledger codes and transaction details when matching transactions are imported from your bank feed. This helps reduce manual data entry, improves consistency, and minimize the risk of errors. And bank rules are especially useful for recurring transactions such as direct debits, subscriptions, fuel purchases, or regular supplier payments where the same information is used repeatedly. And once a rule has been created, Sage automatically populates the transaction details for you. You can simply review the information, confirm it's correct, and create the transaction. So this can save a significant amount of processing time, particularly when dealing with large volumes of regular transactions. So we'll jump straight back into the demonstration. I'll just show you how to set those up and how they look when they do come through in the bank feed. So back into the bank feed list, so you'll see all of your downloaded transactions. What I didn't mention previously is it will start to remember what you're selecting the more you use it. So a lot of my ledger codes are already displayed, so it's remembered what I've selected for different types of transactions previously. So it will get a lot quicker to use the more that you use it. But you'll notice alongside each of the transactions, you do get the option to create a rule. So when a regular transaction does appear on your bank feed, so let's say this £50 is, say, a mobile phone bill, you would choose create a rule, and that will open up the rule page where it'll ask you to fill out the details. So the first thing is to give it a name, just so you know what that rule is later. So I'm just going to call this mobile bill. It already recognises that it's a payment going out, so it's already highlighted that it's a payment. So when it does appear on the bank feed, it will automatically post it as a payment. It will then ask you to define the conditions for the rule. So it will automatically populate the transaction amount and reference picked up from the bank feed. You can change those. You can also remove. So if the reference might be different each time, but the amount stays the same, you can leave the amount in, or the other way around. But you can also leave more than one condition. You can add different references, date ranges. So you can essentially specify the conditions that you want it to meet. And then at the bottom section is where you will enter the ledger account of where you want it to be posted to. So it's got your ledger account list. So if I just choose my telephone code, and then if you are using the analysis types, you've got the option to post it to one of your departments or projects. And once that's saved, that will drop into the rules management section, which is just at the top of your screen. So any rules that you have set up, you can view in this section at the top, and you've also got the option to edit or delete them, but you can see what rules you've got set up in there. So how those rules will work when the new transactions come in on the bank feed, if I just come out of there, what you will notice when you have rules set up at the top section of your bank transaction list, it'll show you how many of the transactions have rules applied. So I've got 11 transactions that have come through the bank feed that fit one of my rules, and you've got the option to review the transaction. So you can jump into the review link and it will show you exactly what rules have been applied and where it wants to post each of those transactions. So you can just scan down, make sure you're happy. Once you are, you've got create all, so it will post all of those 11 transactions in one go rather than going down individually. Or alternatively, if I just come out of there, if you are confident that the rules are all set up correctly and they're posting where you want them to post, every time the rules are applied, you don't even have to review them. You can just jump into the right-hand side, hit create all, and that will do them all in one go. And that just saves you looking at them and doing them individually. Set the rules up and it will pick them up and you can view and create from there. So bank feed rules are particularly useful for regular payments and receipts because they remove the need to process the same transactions manually each month. And once the rules are set up, transactions can be processed quickly and in bulk. And you can create up to 300 bank rules per bank account. So just jumping back to the slides and just to summarise what we've covered so far before moving on to the bank statement import. So we've looked at what bank feeds are and how to set the connection up, how to process bank feed transactions, including when to use the match, create and transfer options, and how to set up and use bank feed rules to help automate transaction processing. So the next thing we're going to look at is your bank statement import. So this option allows you to import bank statements instead of using a live bank feed. So you would typically use this if your bank doesn't support bank feeds, or if you'd prefer not to have a live connection, but you still want to benefit from some automation features. So as with bank feeds, the statements can only be imported for base currency bank accounts, so foreign currency transactions can't be imported through the bank statement option. So I'll jump back into the demonstration and just show you how the statement upload works. So most banks are compatible with bank feeds, but if your bank isn't supported or you'd prefer not to use the live feed, you can upload your bank statement instead. And once imported, it works in much the same way as the bank feed. All transactions from the statement are displayed in a list ready for processing. The main difference is that the data has been uploaded from the statement manually rather than being pulled in automatically from the bank. So to import a statement, it's the same area where you connect the bank. So under the actions drop down, you've got the option to import statement. So you would select that and it will give you a screen where it'll show you a list of the supported file formats. So there's quite a few formats it accepts. So your bank should let you download the statement in one of those formats. If you want any information on the supported file types, there is a little guide at the bottom. But once you have the file saved somewhere from your bank, simply either click to browse or drag it into this middle section. I'll just browse my bank statement in. Once it's browsed in, click review at the bottom and that will take you to, it just asks you a couple of questions. The first one is just to confirm the way the date is displayed on your statement. So select the date, hit continue. It will then just want you to confirm whether the payments and receipts have been identified correctly. So it'll just give you a little list of your transactions and it'll show you what it has picked up as money in and money out. So it'll show you on screen what it thinks the money out transactions are, what it thinks the money in transactions are, and at the top you've got the option to switch just in case it's picked them up the wrong way around. But once happy, confirm import. And once confirmed, the transactions are imported and displayed in the same way as the bank feed. So if I just jump in, it'll show you how many transactions were on that statement. So there were 16 transactions on the statement. And when you click the link, it will display the list as it did before. The only difference you'll see is it's got imported from statement under each transaction, but it will still match in the same way. It'll still remember what you're selecting for transactions. So you would just process in exactly the same way as before by either matching, creating, or transferring each transaction as required. So using either bank feeds or bank statement import can significantly reduce processing time and help minimise keying errors. Transactions can't be duplicated because once processed, they're removed from the list. It also helps to ensure nothing is missed as transactions remain visible until they've been completed. And because the data comes directly from your bank activity, it also reduces the risk of incorrect dates or amounts being entered. So both options help keep your accounts as accurate and as up to date as possible. So now that we've seen how transactions flow into Sage Accountant, let's look at one of the biggest advantages of using bank feeds, how they make your bank reconciliation much faster and easier. So traditionally, reconciling your bank account involves comparing your bank statement line by line against the transactions recorded in your accounting software. And this would usually involve manually entering transactions, checking for missing items, and trying to identify any mistakes or discrepancies. While the process can be time consuming, it is essential to make sure your accounts records accurately reflect your actual bank balance. Now with bank feeds, much of that work has already been done for you. So the final section of the demonstration, we're going to run through a bank reconciliation if you are using bank feeds or uploading your bank statement. So let me just jump back into the demonstration for the last time. So you can access the reconciliation option by selecting the name of the bank account you want to reconcile, which will open up that account, and the reconcile option is just at the top of each of the bank accounts. So jump into reconcile. And if you're already doing this manually, the screen looks exactly the same. Even if you're using the bank feeds, you would still come into the same screen, pop in your statement date, statement end balance, hit apply, and that will bring all the transactions through up to that statement date. But what you'll notice is that the transactions already have a tick in the reconciled column. This is because they've already been confirmed through the bank feed or the bank statement import process. So where previously all of these would have been unticked and you would have to go up and down the statements through the pages and ticking them off one by one against the bank statement. This way they're already ticked, and at this stage the reconciliation becomes less about finding problems and more about quickly confirming that everything is correct. The difference at the bottom, so you could have pages and pages of transactions, they'll all be ticked, so scroll to the bottom. Your difference should be 0 because all real life bank activity has already been brought through the bank feed or the bank statement. So it's really quick for you to complete the bank reconciliation, but just by scanning down, checking everything's ticked, difference at the bottom is 0. You've still got the option to save and come back to it later if you need to check anything, but once you're happy, just finish the reconciliation and that's those transactions reconciled, ready for you to do the next one. So it does significantly reduce the time it takes to complete a bank reconciliation. So something that may previously have taken hours at the end of the month can now just take a few minutes because most of the work has already been done in the background. So that brings us to the end of the demonstration. Just to give a little recap of what we've covered. So we've looked at what bank feeds are and how to set them up, how to process the bank transactions once the link is created, how to create bank feed rules, how to import bank statements if you want to use the bank statement option, and how to complete a bank reconciliation if you are using the bank feed or the import statement option. So in practice, this means less manual data entry, fewer discrepancies to investigate, less back and forth checking of statements compared to what's in Sage, and a much faster overall process. And most importantly, you still stay in control. You can review, edit, and approve each transaction. So accuracy isn't reduced, it's actually improved. So before we finish, I'll just like to go through the support that you've also got available to you. So here are the support options you have available shown on screen. You can search the Help Centre where you'll find a range of useful guides. There's also webinars and videos available for further learning and support. In addition, you do get access to the telephone support team. They're available Monday to Friday, 8 till 8, and there is also web chat available on weekends. You've also got access to free online training through Sage University. So whether you're new to Sage Accounting or an experienced user, there'll be content to support you, including e-learning courses and bite-sized videos designed to help you learn at your own pace. So that brings us to the end of the webinar. I hope you found it useful. If you do have any further questions, please pop them into the questions panel. We've still got some time to answer those. But if you're all set and you don't have any questions, you're welcome to leave. And I hope to see you again on a future webinar.